Welcome to Sustainable Packaging with Cory Connors, presented by Atlantic Packaging. I'm your host, Cory Connors. In today's episode, I connected with my friend, Mr. Mitch Rovito from Burton. We dive deep into some great stories about how Burton is innovating in the sustainable packaging space and how I got to tour their facility in Vermont. What a cool experience. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, 3M and Spec Right. We couldn't do the show without them. Welcome back, Mr. Mitch Rovito, my very good friend from Burton. It's so great to have you on again.
Great to see you, Cory. Good to catch up again.
I truly enjoyed our tour of your facility. We'll talk about that some more in this episode. We have some great history with Burton, my family does, and we'll talk about that a little bit if we can get to it. But tell us about you before we get into too much. Tell us about your background, how it shaped your sustainability focus at Burton.
Yeah, I feel like I've told this story a few times. I think I even told it on stage at Sea Change when you were out here. But I'm one of the maybe oddballs in the packaging industry in that I found out about packaging at a very young age. I was the younger brother visiting a college campus as my older brother was exploring his career path. And we went to RIT. And in one of the visits, I met Tom Voss, at that time, the chair of the packaging program there. And if anyone had the opportunity to meet Tom Voss, you'll get this. Imagine Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka character, but instead of being passionate about sweets and candy, he was passionate about packaging. And it was just infectious. And he was just fun and engaging and so passionate about what he did. Both my brother and I were just like, we latched on. And he actually went into packaging, my older brother, for a little bit. He's not in that industry anymore, but that was when I was in maybe ninth grade. So in ninth and 10th grade, I decided that packaging at RIT was the path I wanted to take. And I don't know how old you are, ninth and 10th grade, but how many 14 or 15-year-olds are kind of set on their career path at that time. And I was also a passionate snowboarder. And so went into packaging, did a lot of riding when I was at RIT down at Bristol Mountain, and traveled the world after that to ride. And there was always this beacon that was, how do I figure out how to get into the snowboard/snow sports industry in this field? Like, you see the world of the industry of packaging, but then when you look at the snow sports industry, I always had this like, do any snowboard companies have a package engineer? How do they even get this done? And here I am 20 years later, the packaging manager at Burton, and there really wasn't a packaging engineer before me. There were people who did production work and handled packaging as product developers, but I'm definitely the first person at Burton with a packaging science degree and coming from the packaging industry. But this anecdote or the story that I like to tell is, in my freshman year at RIT, I took a career class that was like resume writing and cover letter writing and practice how you'll go and apply for jobs. And we had to pick a conceptual dream job. And funny enough, when I was 18 years old, I wrote a mock cover letter to Burton Snowboards about how I would want to be the package engineer there. So definitely full circle as the world of passions kind of merge.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. You believed it into existence. I love it.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I've got my Burton shirt on. I'm a huge fan. I've been riding Burton for most of my snowboarding career here in Oregon, and just love your products and your brand and what you stand for. I want to talk about the culture there at Burton, because I think you are leaders in sustainability, not only in packaging, but in everything that you do. Can you talk to us about what it's really like to work there, and how that culture makes you inspired to do your job?
Yeah. So the culture really stems from Jake, the founder, who passed in 2019. But Jake left this legacy of curiosity, this desire the whole reason Burton exists is Jake had this Snurfer, this little backyard toy, and he saw the opportunity that it could just be improved on. So it started not as a thought about how to make a career and make an industry, but it really started as I have a curious mind, and I think there's ways that I can tinker and make this better for myself, but also better for other people. And that's stuck. That's how we approach product. That's how we approach our thought. That's how we approach engagement. It's like there's always a curiosity and a desire to do things better. And the big piece to maybe the ability to do that is the fact that we're still privately held. We're still owned
Right.
by Donna Carpenter, Jake's wife and partner through the whole thing. Donna's been there since day one. And, when you have one shareholder
Yeah.
who, in her words, gives a shit, and she cares about sustainability. You experience that too at Atlantic Packaging. It's like the superpower to be able to really do what's right, even if it may break traditional business norms. And that, like, you pair that with this curiosity and this tenacity to innovate and do things differently, and all of a sudden you bring in sustainability, and there's this desire to always be looking forward and doing things better. So there's a culture there around innovation. There's a culture around progression. But Donna had a vision when other team members came to her and said, "Hey, we really need to start doing things like looking at Blue Sign certification and traceability and supply chain. It's not really happening in our industry." And I'll let those people talk about the bigger picture sustainability things. There's some good content on the website and some other great talks. But like, as someone who gets to operate in the slipstream or in the wake of that work, it's pretty
Hmm.
profound, especially when I speak with my peers in packaging who are up against all of these hurdles, not just the challenges of sustainable packaging design and innovation, but also the hurdles of how do you convince people who are not convinced that we need to really be proactive and aggressive towards protecting the planet.
Hey, friends, we are going to take a quick break to thank our sponsors. Please be sure to support them. Are you shipping with recycled corrugated? Think outside the box with 3M tape. 3M packaging tape can help you overcome your recycled corrugated challenges with confidence, making sure your boxes are sealed securely the first time, reducing downtime, and providing consistent performance. With 3M as your partner, you can maintain productivity, achieve cost savings, and turn packaging problems into sealing success. When you use recycled corrugated shipping boxes, think 3M packaging tape. Sustainability starts long before a product hits a shelf. It starts with the spec. That's why brands choose SpecRite, the leader in intelligent specification data management and modern product lifecycle management. SpecRite turns siloed packaging and product data into connected, reliable intelligence so AI can identify waste, optimize materials, streamline supplier collaboration, and accelerate sustainable product design. If you're trying to reduce packaging complexity or meet evolving regulations, it's time for a spec-first approach. SpecRite, the intelligent foundation for every product. Discover more at specrite.com. In packaging, it's still, I know a guy, but what happens when you don't? Or when you need something beyond your network? Forest is built for that. A platform that connects packaging knowledge with AI intelligence, giving you access to verified suppliers, real capabilities, and actionable data in one place. Take action at speed. Execute with intelligence. That's Forest. Yeah, that's it. And you could feel it as you're walking through the facility. You could feel this kind of environment of, hey, be yourself and innovate and make some changes and be who you think you need to be to make this a better place for all of us. It just felt like a comfortable environment.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a corporation. And I agree. Atlantic and packaging and a New Earth project is very similar to that. I reached out to one of our senior leaders, our mutual friend Don Meek, the other day, and had kind of a crazy idea. And he's like, "I love it. Let's do it. That's a
Yep.
great idea. Night. I totally support you." And it's just, wow, what a feeling to work in a place where you can innovate and be aggressively sustainable,
Yeah.
like us. Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that relationship a little bit. How did you get involved with the New Earth Project and Atlantic Packaging? We have a very special partnership.
The organic nature of our relationship, I feel like, is maybe the theme or the motif to so much of the work that I'm doing. And I attribute so much of our data that shows progress and success and what we've been able to accomplish at Burton is totally to this aligned partnership. And that's really where it came from. Is Don Meek is the first person that I met Donna was in Vermont for a sustainability related event. Gosh, maybe 2021 or 2022, and was talking with someone else in Vermont who was in the outdoor action sports industry, and they were like, "Hey, you should chat with Mitch at Burton. I feel like you would get along." And Don and I connected, and it was just like instant. It was just yes and over and over again, talking about what we're working on. And that was really the first time I felt this amplifier that when you come to the table with similar goals, like you go twice as far. It's not linear. There's this power that happens, and Don and I experienced that together, and we've talked about that since. And that's like really where a New Earth project, the tone of "we do this together," which is a tagline I know that your team has used since the beginning. It's like we can't do it alone. We can't make change. We're seeing this shift where consumers can only push back so hard to say we're sick of waste, we're sick of seeing pollution, we're sick of the human health impacts. And like we all have to do it. Consumers need to advocate, us as brands need to advocate, you as suppliers need to advocate. And if we do it together, we'll see real change because it truly is a paradigm shift. So Don and I met, we started working together. We had all these opportunities to share ideas and share resources and think of it bigger than just Atlantic Packaging winning Burton's packaging business and Burton needing a supplier. It was this like, yes, but also what if we throw all of our ideas on the table and maybe what won't work for us will work for something else. And I just saw a video of your team sharing something with Ibis Cycles, which is a amazing bicycle brand, and using FiberStrap. And FiberStrap was one of those solutions that I had met Sigrid at FiberStrap, and I was like, I don't really see an application that works well on Burton's products, but I know people who do.
Yeah.
And I was like, a New Earth project can activate this, and I know that like this will be such a cool resource. So making that connection and then seeing FiberStrap just like blowing up right now is like it's so special. And like that's like such an example of what we do this together, I feel like means to me is like sustainability. Like we all live on the same planet, like there isn't
Yeah.
a competitive advantage to reducing our impact to the place that we call home.
Yeah, right. Like it or not, we're all in this together,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we do this together is such a wonderful feeling because
Yeah,
you're right. It's kind of like open sourced ideas and open source concepts where we can work together. And it's such a great feeling to be able to sit at a table with you and Julia from Sway
yeah,
and Dawn and the team, and just talk about, well, what about this? Have we thought about this? And have we ever tried this material for that project? And it feels like we're making progress together because we are.
totally.
And like you mentioned about, we talked a little bit about Patagonia. You and
Hmm.
Patagonia were working on the same projects at the same time and didn't even know it, but then you came up with a very similar solution. And I think
Hmm.
that's where kind of that great minds think alike, and we can all work together and learn from each other.
Totally. And you mentioned
Yeah.
Julia. I just have to
Yeah.
make a special call out. Like,
Yeah.
what a special human Julia is. Something else that I think about when we talk about we do this together and like coming convening like we did at Sea Change this year. There's an inspiration that happens, and I think of this because of Julia. Because anytime Julia is on stage speaking or just around her, you're just inspired to be
She's
creative, and you just like all of a sudden
inspirational.
you're like, no, I want to know more about how I can be a part of saving the world through seaweed. And like as funny and fun as that is to like make a comment on that, like there's something deep there. There's something about being inspired by passion and being inspired by what other people are doing in passionate spaces. And I feel like we were talking about this even before we hopped on here, and snowboarding is this, like it's more than just a sport. Even though it's easy for I say this all the time, like I help package toys and package stuff that you use with toys. um and as like funny as that is, like it's true, but also these toys are devices and equipment that bring people to community and bring people to connection and bring people to the outdoors, to the mountains, where you're more aware of the environmental impact. I mean, it doesn't take, especially in the Northeast or out west this year, it doesn't take much time when you're paying attention to snowpack to see the real impacts of climate change and global warming, despite all of the other horrors that we hear every single day with new and new data sets coming out. But yeah, there's there's this X factor, this like soul piece of this connection
Hmm.
with passionate people who are doing something that really kind of makes you feel alive. You agree?
Oh my gosh, yes. We're talking about Julia Marsh from Sway, the CEO and co-founder. She's an incredible person, and it was so amazing to sit with you and her, just the three of us, for I don't know. It felt like 20 minutes, but it could have been 2 minutes, and just be around each other and just vibe from each other and learn from each other about what's going on in our lives and how we can help each other. There's no, hey, I want to, how can we make money from this? It doesn't even come into the realm of the discussion. It's how can we move this progression forward together
Mm.
and help this planet and help the people that care about this planet and the people on it. And I think you're exactly right. It's a feeling. It's a way of living differently, and it's a mindset where I can call you or her and just say, "Hey, I have this thought," and you'll listen and you'll say, "Well, okay, that's great, but what about this?" And we can just bounce ideas off each other, and it's a real collaboration.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so true.
And it's a true friendship. I talk about this a lot in my career. I've been in packaging for 30 years, and my focus has always been building true friendships with people that I really care for and that care for me, and that we can build things together. And it's incredible what happens when you actually do that.
Yeah,
And you're
totally.
just not focused on the wrong things. So, yeah, Fiber Strap, Sway, really huge innovations coming to the market, and you're a big part of that, Mitch. So thank you. Well, let's talk about that event a little bit. Sea Change Sessions.
Yeah.
That's hard to say. In Vermont is it's an event that our friend Don Meek has really spearheaded. The packaging matters part of it. There's I think 4 or 5 different tracks, and you and I were involved with the packaging matters track. Do you want to tell the audience about that event and why it's an important one to visit?
I'd love to. I'll zoom out to zoom back in, which is a common theme with the way that I process. So I've been attending Sea Change since the first time Don and I met was Don's first Sea Change, and that was when I joined. He was out here saying he was going to that. I was like, "Oh, I actually didn't have this event on my radar. Would love to tune in." At that point, the event was in its infancy and was really figuring out what it was all about. And that was, yeah, in 2021 or 2022, kind of the return from isolation and COVID lockdown. So it was like half virtual, mostly virtual, little in person. And to see that event go from this like wide lens of sustainability, climate advocacy, activism, and to see it from then through 2 sessions every single year, to see the packaging topic just grow and grow and grow. A big part of that is the support that Atlantic Packaging and a New Earth Project has offered to them. But just to see the engagement and the audience grow, like there was an unknown appetite early on, and that appetite just grew. And like here we are. I don't know how many people were at this session, but we had multiple packaging tracks talking about all of these topics, these like really well-known brands, smaller brands, suppliers. Like there was like someone from the entire chain that impacts packaging all in the same room together. And it was so special and it's so inspiring.
Certainly the first event I've ever been to where there was dancing and where there was
Somatic
yoga.
breathing to warm up for the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, breathing and surfing and
Yeah.
I don't know, stand-up paddling, and just a totally different way of engaging with each other,
Yeah.
that is outside of my comfort zone, but I think pushed me into a better place, and I think is really important for all of us in this industry to kind of push our limits and say, I'm going to try something new today, and I'm going to go ride a stand-up paddleboard with my friend Mitch, and I'm going to try a yoga session or have a different way of thinking about things in
Yeah.
life. And such a small and intimate event, but I think it's one of the most valuable events I've ever been to,
Yeah.
honestly.
That's such a good call out. I feel like I kind of forget how special that is. That's such a ingrained part of culture in Vermont is this paddleboarding and connecting through activity. But the way that they structure the event is really profound. The fact that like you said, I'm going to go paddleboard with my friend Mitch, but chances are you're going to paddleboard with your new friend.
Right.
You're making these new friends, trying new things, and they set the tone that it's not only encouraged, but it's supported to go out of your comfort zone, to do a group dance warm up. If that's never been a thing you've done, you're just like, well, we're all doing this. I don't feel like there's a risk in just like socially engaging with this. And all of a sudden you leave just so thinking more expansively, and also like it changes your rhythm. And that's something that even after this event, I was connecting with one of my coworkers who joined me, Haley. I think you met Haley there,
Yeah.
who's helping us with a lot of the EPR work, and it's just been so awesome to have some of that support. And that was her first sea change. And when she left, that was something she commented on, is just this like pace and cadence of life change. You're used to your workday and your routine, and you go to this thing and you're taking these forced breaks, and you're learning about emotional intelligence, and you're doing exercises and empathetic listening, and then you're going back into innovation and ideation and collaboration, and then you're taking a minute, and there's this like, go outside, go connect with your body, go connect with the world, go connect with other people. And you leave not like you leave a normal conference where you're like, I learned new information, I'm ready to go back and like activate this. You leave being like, I feel like my life has changed. I feel like the way I am existing, my heartbeat, my resonance, my posture like has changed. And it's hard to describe that to someone who hasn't been to a sea change event.
Right. And the amazing brands that are made locally there, like Butternut Mountain Farms,
Yeah.
maple syrup. I got to tour that with my friend Hugh Curtis
so
and
fun.
Mikey Pasciuto.
Yeah.
And then we went to tour Burton. And then later that night, we had Ben and Jerry's ice cream. And just like, I feel like I got the total Vermont experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I don't know what else we could add in there to make it even more Vermont focused.
Well, tell Hugh I'm coming for him. I'm boiling my syrup now, and I'm going to produce all of 2 gallons at the end. Tell him Butternut better watch out.
Rovito Nut Mountain Farms. Yeah, I love it. Well, that's perfect. Well, let's talk about the future.
Yeah.
What's next for Burton? You've done so much in advance of extended producer responsibility. You've done so much, and it's kind of leading the charge. Is there still ways to innovate? Is there still goals that you have to meet?
Great question, and a very, very big question. So I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. When I started, which was in 2021, we were working towards our 2025 sustainability goals. Every 5 years, we have a self-reporting year that our sustainability team holds us accountable for. Emily Foster, Taylor Ralph really are my counterparts in that. Before, when I started, Allie Kinney was still involved, and Allie really built the program at Burton, and Don and Allie go way back. And they really like paved the path for that. And so now we have these self-reporting goals. It's an entire program with a team that leads that, which is like really wonderful. And it's all since day one has been focused on science-based targets and industry relevance. And where we are now with all of these regulations. 4 years ago, most of these were just concepts, and now we're seeing EPR all across the US, EPR in Europe, waste management in Europe. There's just all of these different things, Green Claims Initiative, DPP, all these things that are coming out. And to have had a sustainability team, even though they weren't packaging experts, they looked to the science. They used the responsible packaging movement. They looked at what Patagonia is doing and what other teams were doing out there. And it was really aligned to say, here's the direction that our industry is going in. And here we are with EPR activating. And we have been working towards what the structure of EPR is. We've had such a heads up and a runway on that. And so we had done the California EPR benchmarking reporting, which was really the first year I came. And I think I don't have the actual numbers, but we were in one of our goals of being free from single-use plastics in our retail consumer-facing packaging. We were in the single-digit percentage. I want to say 6%. I can get back to you with the numbers. Yeah. That was in 23. We were doing that benchmarking. Now we're in the like 90%. We've really stripped so much of that single-use plastic packaging, and that's been a big focus of my work, is not only looking at alternate materials, but alternate systems, way we can change our supply chain, the way we can engage with consumers to essentially say, hey, packaging is not meant to live forever.
Right.
Our goal is to package something to effectively get it to you so that the product is good, and then this packaging can be consumed technically back as recycling
Right.
or back into the environment as home compostable, in
Yeah.
some instances reusable as a functional extension of your product. And like to actually see that gap between 23 and 25 or 26, so I forget what the second reporting year is, to see that huge jump and to be like, oh, PR reporting actually becomes a little bit more simple when everything you use is fiber. Not everything.
Yeah.
There's still more progress for us to be made, but to move the things that we can move without massively disrupting our partners, like our 3PLs, our shipping partners, our key dealers, like we can't make changes just to support EPR and then have it be an absolute nightmare for the people who engage with the consumers and help them with the products. Like there's got to be a balance there. And so to see that before and after is like pretty cool.
Well, I think it speaks to you and your team for thinking ahead and thinking about, hey, let's do this today so that in 2, 3 years, it's an easy transition or
Yeah.
there is no transition
Yeah.
because you've already done it. I
Yeah.
think it shows that it's possible. It shows other brands. And I want to say this again, you're a real leader in the industry. And I want to give you a shout out for that because it's not easy what you're doing. I know. I work on it every day
Yeah.
with other brands that are struggling sometimes to accomplish what you've accomplished. So
Yeah.
nice job.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And it's not just me, even though we're a lean packaging team. It's two of us. It's me from the operations and strategy side of things, and then it's my counterpart Marikar, who is a seasoned production designer, and she's able to activate all of these things from our die lines and our mechanical files. And I mean, we do thousands and thousands of art files every year, all of which change every single season with changing regulations, which is something I don't hear too many people talking about, is like adding a logo for waste management in France. And then the next year it changes and there's one for Spain. And then there's a new one for China standards. And when you build global omni-channel packaging, like it's a moving target for sure. And staying up on all those iterations, trying to get ahead of the curve too. We're a product development, and so we're working 24 months ahead of when product comes to cycle. So, here it is, middle of winter 2026, and we're like preparing our work files for our winter 28 product. And so trying to like plan ahead when you're seeing things like, oh, there's like some lawsuits with these EPR things and there's these potential changes, like we have to be really nimble and we have to be willing to redo work as new information comes out. And the stats of how many new waste management, specifically materials, packaging based laws that are coming on the global market these days is breaking records. That's our big challenge right now, is really just staying in tune with the horizon scanning, like what's happening next, what's changing, and how do we prepare for that, from making sure that our inventory is managed well. We're not designing something only to find out that it's got to change and we've already gone to production and now we have to figure out a way to use up that packaging or responsibly dispose of that. But to your original question, which is like what's next, is like we still have these goals of reducing or completely exiting our use of single-use plastics with packaging, and we still have some items that have plastic on them. A lot of them for good reason. Market disruption, there isn't a great alternative out there. Things are too costly or lower performance, things like snowboard shrink wrap. Almost everyone in our industry still uses shrink film on their products. It's an expectation of the consumer to like open that crisp new snowboard that came right off. You're the first person to touch it, and while there are great reusable options with protective bags that you can store for a long time, and I've worked with the team over at Vela and Seaman Paper, and even with the Atlantic Packaging, the Solution Center, to work on ways to automate this and get this into equipment. The solutions just really aren't quite there yet. And the disruption is far greater than maybe the benefit is. And we're still assessing that. I can't say that confidently. That's just where we're at. That's innovation. You try, you fail, you try. The goal is to fail fast and fail often so you can get to a better solution. So single-use plastic packaging reduction is a big one. Recycled content is continuing to tighten up our supply chain and work with our tier 2 material suppliers, work with our factories who source packaging locally, to make sure that we're understanding and we're connected in that strategy, so that where there are options to increase recycled content and reduce potential landfill impact, we can do that where it makes sense. We don't want to do 100% recycled content on things that are going to fail, or we have to double the thickness of a master carton because at
Right.
100% it doesn't have the stacking strength or the burst strength that we need. Finding that sweet spot, that is, what is the most we can do to reduce our reliance on virgin materials, and then continuing to drive FSC certifications, or just like chain of custody in general. Supply chain transparency and supply chain
Very important.
traceability is so huge. And especially as DPP is on the horizon of, like, someone described DPP to me, digital product passport, for your listeners who are unfamiliar with this, which is an initiative coming out of the EU around managing material waste, mostly around textiles. There's also like rubber and tires and electronics, but as it relates to packaging and textiles, it's the comparison someone told me is basically every product someday will have a VIN number like a car, and you'll be able to look up a Carfax history. So you'll be able to say, what is this shirt made of? Where was it made? Where did all the materials come from to build this garment? Which is like kind of wild to think about access to that data. And it's focused on your consumer of being as educated as possible when you're shopping to make sure that you're purchasing things that align with your ethics. You might know parts of the world that are problematic with organic cotton and unfair labor, and you want to choose to avoid buying cotton garments from that part of the world. And like, that gives you the power to make that decision. But from a brand side, the level of data and the level of work that's needed to bring that together is huge. And so having real accredited third-party certification bodies for all of the materials that we can, like FSC, to avoid any sort of problematic or unsustainable sourcing of our fiber materials is really important, but it's a big challenge to really track that down when you work across the globe.
Well, keep up the amazing work, Mitch. You and your team are leaders, and you're doing a great thing. So thank you for that. I look forward to seeing you September 15th through 17th at the Sea Change Sessions in Vermont. And yeah, thank you again, sir. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Cory. Really looking forward to hosting you in Vermont again.
Me too.